Welcome to All Things World War II. Today we're going to look at Battlefield 5 pre-order sales being weak and the guy who ran the game quitting 2 months before its release. Very interesting. So it's a little backstory. The Battlefield series, as far as I am familiar with it, came out in like 2002. I played Battlefield 1942 all the time with my friends. Then they had some expansions. Then they went into other conflicts. Basically, they did a Vietnam game. They did a modern stuff, and then their modern stuff evolved. And they hadn't done anything, old until, I think 2 years ago or last year, they did Battlefield 1, which was a World War I game, which was, in my opinion, pretty inaccurate. Everything was submachine guns and really fast. But everybody liked it, so that's fine. Then the next year, Activision puts out Call of Duty World War II, which got a lot of flack for some political reasons. So this is an article from last year on Polygon, basically pointing out that Call of Duty World War II multiplayer lets you fight as anyone, history be damned. But that was only a multiplayer, and I don't really have a problem with that. I mentioned some of this in my swastika video. They put, an iron cross here, which is a little strange. Normally it'd be a Balkenkreuz, I would think, but I guess that looks a little bit more whatever. And you could be a black female Nazi, and that pissed a lot of people off, but that's multiplayer only, so I don't really think it matters because it's not like part of the plot or part of the universe that they created. They actually used actual World War II as the universe. Fast forward, and Battlefield announces Battlefield 5, so now they've gone back to World War II because that kind of got a lot of positive vibe when Activision did it last year. So I want to show you a bit of this trailer that they announced so you can see what has caused all the people to kind of boycott pre-ordering it.
Fuck it! Hello.
Okay. So right here you see a female cyborg with a cricket bat and crazy makeup on a battlefield. And man, some of this trailer, it's real slick looking. You should watch it. But they have like every vehicle from every time period in one trailer and whatever. That's fine. I noticed some crazy problems with the Tiger suspension, but that's maybe just a me thing. But so people saw this and they were like, what the hell is that? So now we fast forward a bit, since I think that was maybe an E3 that was. That'd be 3 months ago or so. And the pre-order sales are not competing with the games around it. So, which is Black Ops 4, which is a modern kind of alternate reality almost Call of Duty game, and then Red Dead Redemption 2, which everybody's waiting for. So the EA exec departure comes ahead of big game launch. So this guy, it's funny because, let me read a little bit of this. Chief Design Officer is leaving just 2 months before the launch of a new installment of one of his biggest franchises. Patrick Soderlund, so this guy is from Sweden, by the way, had been with EA for nearly 20 years and worked out of its DICE studio in Stockholm. So there's a quote from a while ago that said his daughter had seen the trailer and was asking why there were problems with it and some kind of connection to how popular Fortnite was. And I just, this guy seems to have been on a bit of a moral crusade to tell his little girl that she could be in World War II also. And I don't think that makes any sense. So comparisons of other types of properties that are the same. So the Wolfenstein series, especially the last two, and I think all of them. I haven't played most of them, but they're alternate realities where I guess the backstory is the Germans won the war. That's usually the backstory of an alternate universe World War II thing. Also, The Man in the High Castle, which is a pretty good series on Amazon. They've gone 2 seasons based on books. Also, the story is the Germans won the war, and then they came over here, and then them and Japan divided the U.S. around the Rocky Mountains. I have more issues with Man in the High Castle's choices as to how they handled that, because they somehow have things coexist, like Reinhard Heydrich is still alive, but D-Day kind of happened. Like, there's some weird stuff in there that they should have kind of picked a point, in my opinion, and gone. But it's historical fiction. But So again, I don't mind historical fiction, but especially if you try to make it believable, if you try to make it where you did that thing where you, well, what if this had happened? Okay, fine, that's historical fiction. This trailer seems to be just chaos. And so everything is happening super fast. Everybody's in the same place. Everybody's like a kind of a folksy, like people that weren't there, women and different races of people. And it has nothing in common with World War II whatsoever. So what I guess I'm confused about is, like, Man in the High Castle and Wolfenstein took World War II and went somewhere with it. And this is just like, what if World War II was Fortnite? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't like that at all. That would be terrible. So I'm just a little confused, and I think apparently so is their fan base, which is great to hear. So, you know, that's a much safer way, the way that those other things did it, than this way. And I think that when you try to just completely scrub something that's important to hundreds of millions of people, either their grandfathers were there, or their grandfather died there, or their dad died there. And I mean, I assume people whose fathers were in the war probably aren't playing a lot of video games, but a lot of people whose grandparents were sure as hell are. And I think I'm actually surprised that the fan base is with me on it, because I looked at it and I'm like, well, the art looks great and it actually looks like it could be relatively fun, but what the hell? It's crapping on everything that I spend all my time researching. I've started 2 YouTube channels to talk about, like, the war is really important, and spreading the story of men who were in the war is really important, and erasing them with fictional, bubblegum pop girls I find to be stupid. So it's not surprising that guys like us would be annoyed by this, but I'm actually really pleased that, like, I guess the mainstream is kind of turning their back on it. So I know I got a little bit of flack in the Overlord trailer video because of, messing with obvious historical fiction stuff, but I guess what I'm just trying to point out is that everybody's doing this now, and it's a very popular thing to just take the war and just say, this is our vision of World War II. But that, you can't really have a vision of World War II. What you can have is your interpretation of what happened. But it's pretty clear that the people who are doing these, like, visions of it don't care about the subject matter, and are, in my opinion, it's offensive, but I'm aware that my opinion doesn't matter and people can do whatever they want. But it's nice to see people actually turning their back on something so stupid. So why did the guy leave? That's really interesting. The fact that the guy left 2 months before it gets launched. They're comparing this to the sequel to Titanfall, which, if you're not a game guy, it tanked. It was even relatively well made, but it tanked. So hopefully this could be the end of this trend in games where people are kind of misusing the war to sell games, because it's not working. It's not worked twice now. Call of Duty did fine, trust me, but their sales compared to their Modern Warfare games were not anywhere near the same. So this is very encouraging, but yet again, the fact that the game exists, it's hard to explain it. It feels like it's like a cover song, or like somebody made, like, I don't know, they're talking about like a family member of mine, something that I care deeply about, and they made a really fancy, polished thing that is just completely wrong, and I don't know how to deal with it, but I'm glad that overall people are not buying into it. So that's all I got. If you have opinions, let me know. I'll see you next time.